Hey, and welcome to the Album Review Show, episode number 8. Stick around where we talk about Kings of Leon's latest album, When You See Yourself.
Yeah, we also reveal our tracks of the week, so stay tuned to see what they are. And we have a discussion also about NFT and the future of the music industry.
Yeah, it was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. So yeah, stick around, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome to the Album Review Show, episode number 8. We are in a new place. We are in the new podcast studio. We've bubbled up, haven't we? And
yeah, this is all above board.
Yeah,
I'm living alone, so we can form a bubble now.
Yeah. So it's all fine, COVID friendly. We're happy days, but we are in the new podcast studio. So if you haven't already, hit a comment down below and just let us know what you think of the new studio.
Yeah, we're still making some little tweaks to it. Hopefully we'll get some wall art up and stuff like that, make it a bit more interesting. But yeah, it's good to have our own space to be able to do this in, isn't it?
Oh, not half. I mean, it was great doing it over Zoom and over the internet while we could, because it was like a lifeline for me over lockdown. But having an actual conversation with someone is just so much better, isn't it, when you're in the room?
It's the timing that you miss when you're on Zoom, isn't it? It's, a lot harder to edit, I think. But yeah. Yeah, you can actually have a cup of tea with someone, and I don't know. It's just hopefully it'll come across a little bit, maybe that we're things are cracking on a little bit more now, and we mean business. Yeah. So this week we are reviewing Kings of Leon's latest album, When You See Yourself. So we'll get into that a bit later, but we'll start with our usual track of the week. So what's your track of the week this week?
I've gone for Everything, Supernatural. They just dropped it out of nowhere, really. They announced it, I think, on Twitter the night before that they were dropping it, and just amazing. Absolutely brilliant. It had one of them videos with it that he's been doing with all them like mad animations and everything, but I feel like he's stepped it up again, and it's gone weirder and like more crazy. Like he's just learned more how to do all of this like video editing or something. But what a song. The chorus is just it feels a lot like kind of the beginnings of Everything, I think. And they are one of my favourite bands, and I am a little bit biased with kind of everything that they release. I just get a big thumbs up from me, but I mean, this one's really, really cool. Yeah,
I really enjoyed it as well. I think I did, to be fair, if I'm being totally honest with myself. As much as I loved them, I probably did struggle a little bit on the last album. But yeah, this seems like they're back to their like chaotic best on the first couple of albums.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just kind of got like that like weird everything swagger to it, if that makes sense. It knows what it is, and it knows that it does everything the best, like that it can do, and it's just like a fun, crazy, as you say, chaotic song that just ticked a load of boxes for me. It was brilliant. And I just hope it's like the start of a new album maybe that they've done over lockdown, or I don't know, but yeah, hopefully it's going that way. But yeah, what's yours?
So my track of the week this week is from a local artist called Amber J. It's a song called Pencil Brims off her new EP. She released a couple of weeks ago now, I think. And we actually, little plug, we did an interview with her on our Instagram Live. We do a Friday night live on Instagram. We've been doing it on Instagram, but we might be moving it over to YouTube soon. But yeah, we did a little interview with her, didn't we? It's nice to catch up. But yeah, the track's brilliant, and I actually struggled to like find a reference to compare it to. In the best way. It's really unique.
With when you say to people like, "Oh, you should listen to this," because like if you're a fan of X, it's easier to sell sometimes, isn't it? But wow, this one just comes out of nowhere for me, and like ticked so many boxes, and it was so brave, and it was just it was a great interview that we did with her as well. Like, you really should go and watch it, because she's such a lovely girl, isn't she? And she's so talented. This EP, like, kind of in the same vein of everything, it has that kind of like chaotic things just change feel, and things just change sound, and it's so well produced, isn't it?
this particular track, it's the whole EP is sort of like an alt pop feel, isn't it? But it goes into like this swinged chorus, sort of middle eight thing out of nowhere, and it takes you to places where you don't expect, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, would recommend. 10 out of 10.
Okay, so Kings of Leon, When You See Yourself. This is their 8th album now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. And highly anticipated for me. Well, for me, and like by the looks of it on the internet and everything, it is quite a highly anticipated record. It's funny because I think that it comes across in the music a little bit that like it was a record that people wanted them to make.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a lot said about the Kings of Leon since Sex on Fire, and you know, some of it may be true, where they've maybe been chasing a sound or a song or a chart position in the past, possibly, and none of it happens on this record. You know, we'll get into it a lot more, like in the next half hour or whatever. But I really loved this album.
Yeah, same with me, really. It was the first Kings of Leon album, probably since Only by the Night, which I didn't skip a track on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect or like my favourite album ever or anything, but the three since Only by the Night have been a bit disappointing. I think there've been a few flurries on the album of really great tracks, but there's definitely been a lot more skippable stuff. But this seems to be getting back to a little bit of the best.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a thing where like it just seems to me like they've gone home, maybe really taken stock, and then thought, right, what is it that we want to put out there, and what is it that we want to say?
Yeah,
and they've concentrated on saying them things and ticking their boxes for themselves. And I know they have touched on it in a few interviews so far that it was the record that took them the longest to make, because literally if anyone had any suggestion for any song, they would go through with that suggestion just to see if it did work. So obviously that's going to take ages, isn't it? But even down to, you know, they said that some of the writing happened like really, really quick and spontaneously in the room, where, you know, 15 minutes later it's a full song. I think it was Bandit that they referenced for that. But in such a brilliant way, you can tell. It has that like energy and feel of like really early Kings of Leon, I think. There's a few tracks that take me straight back to Youth and Young Manhood. There's quite a few tracks that take me straight to Aha, Shake Heartbreak, and Only by the Night, as you mentioned before. And yeah, it's hard to skip a song. I think it keeps your interest, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's not particularly like a sound of a band trying to make history, but it's, as you say, it sounds like they're really comfortable in their own skin on this record. It sort of marries their interests, old and new. And it's sort of embracing their more mature, laid-back versions of themselves, which they are now, really, aren't they? They're all married, getting a bit older and stuff, and I think it's a good representation of where they are now.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's interesting, like the first track on the record, because it starts so like it sounds so somber. I think that intro guitar, and it's so like morose, and then straight out like it's like a misdirect. Then the rest of the band comes in and it starts to sound a lot more happy, and it's like, maybe not happy, maybe that's not the right word, but it starts to sound a lot more like put together, and it's less gloom and doom, and it, you know, that really nice like indie snare roll, like da 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 da, and it just really keeps you interested, I think, for that whole first, especially that first track. I'm like, what's to come? It starts to ask a lot of questions, I think, of, well, like my first listen, I was just thinking, wow, if this is the like track number one, almost like a throwaway track, then what's to come? And it didn't disappoint for me. I really, really enjoyed it, and you start to get like real cinematic vibes from the record. I think
Yeah.
it's an incredibly cinematic record, and which kind of touches on like a wider issue and a wider thing, which is everything seems to work really well with this record. Like the visuals, like every visual they've put out for the record works and plays into the artwork as a whole. I think like this is the most cohesive piece of art that they've created as a band.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like is getting people excited, and I think that's what people are really tapping into, because literally every music video that they've created, they all have a style to them. All of the clothes seem like closely related. Some of the cameras that they use, and you can tell, are all have a vibe to them. Some of it's like Super 8 films and like you know, all that kind of stuff. All of the press shots that they've released, they're all very, very cohesive with the rest of what they've put out. And even down to like, you know, in America where they have like the late night shows where they all go on and play the songs, even down to, obviously because they've had to pre-record them, it's given them a chance to actually play that into the narrative and into the art form of the rest of the visuals that they've put out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it was like the one for James Corden. I'm not a big fan of his at all, but I watched that because it was them, and it was them in like a house that they'd like. It was also stylistic, and it was really, really engaging. And I think like when you can carry that stylistic art form across it matches with the music so well. It is so engaging, and it's really fulfilling experience for a fan, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do live with it, because sort of everything you mentioned there leads to a more intimate setting, and like, you know, as you say, they're doing like the live performances in like living rooms and stuff, and it's all like a very intimate album, it feels, and aesthetic.
Yeah, we mentioned this, we did touch upon this on our Instagram live, so you know, go and check it out. But we did mention that like it feels like a record that needs to be played in smaller venues, and it feels like a divisive record for some fans that maybe do prefer the Sex on Fire kind of stuff and less of the earlier, more raw stuff. That it might dissuade some of them kind of fans where they would sell out an arena, for example, and maybe they'd play in a big theatre rather than. And I'd be really, really excited to go and watch that show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they could easily sell that tour out. Yeah, easily. And it'd be so special, I think, as a live experience for the fans that did actually get there.
Yeah, it's. I think overall it's a very digestible album. As I say, like for me, the past three albums weren't anywhere near as digestible as this. For someone who's a sort of passive Kings of Leon fan, this for me has made me more interested in them again, sit up again and take notice of them a bit with this album.
I know that we really enjoyed Aha Shake Heartbreak, didn't we, as a record? That was like a huge formative record for us, and I just think this record really has that. Do you know, I texted my friend Chris when on first listen, and I just texted him and said, this record has a heart. It's got Kings of Leon have a heart again, and it really does have that feeling that it's not just a record to appease a chart position or something. It's a record that it's a piece of art that they've put everything into, and that they wanted to make correct, and you know, and that's what I'm really connected with. As you said before, some of the songs on the record, I'm like, I wouldn't just choose to put them on, but if I'm listening to it as a body of work, it feels odd if you don't listen to them and if you skip them. So you need to listen to it as like a vinyl or a piece of work in its entirety, don't you? Yeah,
it feels like they've sort of learned on the road since Only by the Night, these past three albums, everything they've learned, and the best bits from them, as well as and reconnecting with their old sort of more boisterous rock and roll side, and it's just a really nice combination of the sort of two eras of the band, I think.
Yeah, I think the band have shown like that in some of the music on the record, in that it does touch on like some of the older stuff and the more like just raw rock and roll kind of thing. And that, I mean, the Bandit for me is one of them.
Yeah.
Straight away on the record, you listen to the Bandit and you're in.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, I get this, and I can really get my teeth into this. The intro is absolutely wonderful, and the lyrics are so vague and open.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually get your teeth into what he's saying. You're just enjoying what he is saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's one where I feel like a lot of Kings of Leon songs, they exist inside his head, and if you're really trying to find what they mean, maybe just don't, because some of them are even just like stories that he's picked from different things, and it's hard to actually say, oh, that's what that's about, because it is so vague, you know. But one that I did pick up on, I don't know if it was in the Bandit or one of the other tracks, but it was we've crystallized, it's dawn on you, you have the face of someone new. I know this lyric is probably about something else, but it seemed a little bit like about the band. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like we do have a new face, and we've crystallized and we've hardened up, and we're back, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels more sort of youth and young manhood, the Bandit. Yeah, it's probably my favourite track on the album. It's quite vivid lyrics, as you say. It's good storytelling without being like really obvious what it's about. It
reminded me of, as you say, like that. What's the DVD that they put out a while ago? Talahina Sky.
Yeah.
So it you can really picture that place where they are, and when they go back and see their family, that sound kind of comes from that upbringing, doesn't it? And you can really hear it in the Bandit, I think. And I really love the production style that comes through on the record. It has that drum sound that's become really, really popular over the past, I would say, 3 years. It's really like flat and dry. It's kind of the Fleetwood Mac Rumours sort of drum sound, isn't it? As I say, it's really like close and flat and dry and really kind of in your face, and feels like you're in the room with the drummer. Some of the drumming on the record is incredibly reminiscent of them early records, isn't it? He's kind of, you can see that he's really writing the parts to like serve the song and everything, and it's really refreshing to hear. But there's almost some like shoegaze in places, I would say. Some of the guitars become like really huge and like reverby, grand kind of shoegaze guitars in some places, and it's quite interesting to have that like juxtaposition of like super dry drums with this like shoegazy, because it gives the space in the mix for this super like wet guitar tone and stuff. I've seen a lot of people online, and it leads into the shoegaze thing. I've seen a lot of people online. The one thing that they didn't like about the record was the mix. Yeah,
I've seen that as well. A few people have been saying like his voice is maybe drowned out a little bit by the mix, and it's interesting that.
I personally love the mix. I thought it really worked again with like the aesthetic. And this, like, it was almost cinematic in the way that it's not a pop record. You know what I mean? Like, whereas maybe some of the last few records have been pop rock records, haven't they? This one is like an alternative rock record, and it has huge swathes of shoegaze and these kind of more underground sounds to it, you know, garage rock, and it makes you really, personally, it makes me really like hone in on what he's saying. It makes me really want to listen to what he's saying. It's like that minimal less is more kind of thing, I think.
Maybe that's why it is quite unskippable. like because you are listening to this, you're getting sort of lost in the storytelling.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like the production on it, to be fair, as well. Again, it's that intimate sort of theme, isn't it, that they're going for with this album? And yeah, as I say, it's interesting to see what they'll do with it live. The drum sound, as you mentioned, yeah, I felt it was quite like he uses dynamics so well as a drummer.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he sounds like he's playing with brushes or hot rods or something, and he's probably not. He's probably just
that good.
Yeah, that's that good. Yeah,
yeah. He's an interesting drummer to kind of pick apart, isn't he? Because I mean, when you look like a lot like back at, even when you watch that Talahina Sky documentary, you realise that the drummer's actually the better singer out of the two. Out of the two brothers, that, you know, everyone probably would have said, "Oh, they're going to grow up to be singers." It would be him. You know, it's funny because it's almost like he's the more musical one, and he's playing the drums, but he really distills that down into the drumming, and it's quite a musical way of playing the drums, isn't it? It's such a big part of the Kings of Leon like early style, is to have these bits that without that, it's nowhere near as good, you know. When you listen to like Our Heart Shake Heartbreak or any of them records, and you think just that little, maybe like a touch on the ride or any tiny little hi-hat or something, and you think it'd be lacking without that. And it's
he's
so,
really clever.
So clever to leave that in, and serves the song really, really well, I think. Yeah.
Even like when he performs live, it's so he just looks so effortless, doesn't he? Like he's half asleep almost while he's playing the drums.
Yeah, because he's singing like half of the main vocal as well. He backs up the main vocal a lot of the time as well, doesn't he? So it is a huge responsibility that he's undertaking. But when he opens up and starts really hitting it, and like cracking the drums, wow, you know, he's one of the most underrated drummers, maybe, I think, in the music industry. You know, as like on his own. You know, staying with the rhythm section, I think the bass is a huge part of this record. In an incredibly musical way. It's almost like the guitars have been put on the back seat and they're used as like pads or like
synthy sounds,
like
maybe
taste making kind of parts, whereas the main like musical parts to the record are synths, and the bass is huge, isn't it? There's Stormy Weather opens with that bass lick, doesn't it? And like the arpeggio on the bass, and just the vocal and the bass. Wow. What a lovely, like, it's got like a little chorus maybe on it, and it's recorded really well and played really well. And again, this is like another hallmark of early Kings of Leon, in that like the bass is a huge like melodic part, isn't it? It's almost like a lead guitar as well. As I say, the Stormy Weather for me is one of the highlights, and it's because of that bass line that I think it was the last one they released before they dropped the album, wasn't it? And that one like got me so excited for the rest of the record.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the production seems more of a band-led thing than, because I think it was the same producer, Marcus Drabs, who produced Walls. But yeah, it feels more of like Kings of Leon being a bit more curious and as I say, comfortable in themselves, trying out new things maybe, rather than producer-led. Yeah,
so they released some kind of like visualizers, if you know what I mean, and on the run-up to the release of the record, and just after as well, where it was like an in conversation with. So it was like almost just behind the scenes footage on their YouTube channel, Vivo channel, with like a phone call with them over the top, and it was so cool, and it was so intentional, and it didn't have to like do it over the phone.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? They could, like, I'm sure Kings of Leon couldn't record their vocals like if they wanted to, but it made it so engaging that. But anyway, in one of these visualizer behind the scenes kind of things, they did say that people won't realise how much Matt had to do with this record.
Yeah.
If you don't know Matt, he's the guitarist, the youngest one in the band.
Okay, yeah.
And they've kind of credited him with the synth sounds that are so prominent on the record, because he's kind of built himself a vintage synth collection in the past 10 years or whatever, and the visuals. He's been like almost in charge of all of the the aesthetics of the record, which is incredible, really. That kind of one person in the band has been really forcing this through. And I mean, they show some of the behind the scenes footage, like Matt's taking all of the press shots, and he's the director of photography, and he's the one that's like putting it all together. And I just think that's so brave to do as one part of the band. You know what it's like when you're in a band and you think like, I've got this idea, but I don't know if we can pull it off. Or he's just gone, we're doing this, and this is how we're going to do it. It's just really refreshing to see someone like put their neck on the line and go, this is what it's going to look like. I can do it. It's fine. I just need you back in, kind of thing. So yeah, I think, as you've alluded to, that it's been produced, but also it's had their voice and their fingerprint all over it. And I think, as I say, by all accounts, it's Matt who's been driving a lot of it, which is great. I think
that's interesting. Maybe that sort of explains a lot why I do think it's a really coherent piece of work. Everything's tying together really well. Maybe like one person doing all that is better than four people.
What did he say? A camel is a horse made by a group, or so, so with less input, you can actually make something better. It's hard to say really sometimes, isn't it? Because but I think it is interesting that they've had one person really leading it and leading the charge on it, and it's come out the way it has, and it's been so well received. It's something that you've just got to sit back and go, that was great, that wasn't it?
Yeah. On the synth thing as well, it's an argument a little bit that they're a bit less of a guitar band on this album. There's quite a lot more synths and less instrumentation guitar wise on the songs, isn't there?
Yeah, and everything that they've done live so far, kind of, the late night things and the music videos and the live sessions that they've been doing recently, they all have been playing their instruments, and I don't know whether the synths are either on the track or they've got someone else playing them or whatever, but I think that's quite interesting. In that, like, you're right. If you close your eyes and just use your ears, it's not a huge amount of guitar on the record, but there is important guitar on the record. I just feel like maybe instead of going like, oh, we can play just chords in this chorus like a normal guitar band would, they go, right, well, what can we do? It's not that. If you know what I mean, and we can just use maybe synth pads, or we'll use this synth line rather than that. And I think that's if more bands did that, the world would be like the music world would be a super interesting place. I just think they're not a guitar band anymore, are they? No. They are, I would argue, just a rock band. That's what it comes down to. Like, I would just put them under the umbrella of rock now, which kind of does. It can go anywhere, can't it? But for them right now, I would say just rock is fine.
Have you got a favourite track or a couple of tracks maybe which really stand out for you on the album?
I've actually written down that I can't pick a favourite because I actually think there's something, not just something for everyone on the record, but I think there's actually something for whatever you're feeling that day. I genuinely... I listened to it once and I had a favourite, and then a couple of days later I'd listen to it and I'd think, I'm really feeling that one that I wasn't feeling the other day, and I don't know why. And it was just I was feeling different that day, and I think that it serves like one person really, really well. It's got something for like every mood that you're in. Like musical mood, if you know what I mean. But if I had a gun to my head, Golden Restless Age is one that I keep getting excited for, because it's kind of like just over halfway through the album, and like I just get it. I find that like I'm really into the second half of records at the moment. But yeah, that starts almost the second wave of the album for me. And I really, really enjoy Golden Restless Age. I love how kind of complex it is. Yeah. And there's just a lot there that you can get into. But another one that definitely gets a special mention for me is Supermarket. Yeah. Getting like towards the end of the album, it's one that might get forgotten about a little bit, but it's one that I have to listen to that. So it's almost like I have to listen to the whole record, because again, like I think maybe listening to them on their own at the moment might not make that much sense, but when you're listening to it and you get to Supermarket, I'm made up. I love it. It's such a good song. It's just one of them. I think I don't know whether it's where I am in my life at the moment, and like it's like a perfect storm. But this the whole record is, I've never really like felt like that with the Kings of Leon records. There's always been ones maybe towards the end where I've gone, I can skip that, you know. But this one, I just feel everything's been thought about to the nth degree, but not overthought, if you know. And it just, everything has like aligned, and everything that I'm feeling at the moment has aligned for these things to kind of mirror perfectly. And for me, I there's so many good songs on this record. Like 100,000 People is an excellent song, and I could just go on and just name all of the songs really, but I'll end it there with like Golden Restless Age and Supermarket are the two like real standouts for me personally. But obviously then you've got like the ones that they released, like the Bandit and 100,000 People and stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I think the Bandit is probably my ultimate favourite on the album. But yes, it's similar to you really. You've got to listen to it as a body of work, and as I said before, I can't really skip any tracks on it, to be honest. They're all great tracks. But yeah, I really do like the opener, When You See Yourself. The title track of the album. It's like that domestic romance, like wanting to slow time down to like enjoy the moments. I really like that theme. One more night, will you stay here? The Bandit's a bit of fun. A bit sort of cowboys and Indians, and the last track, is it Fairy Tale?
Yes.
I think that's a really nice track as well. It's like a nod to they're all like family men, they're all husbands and dads, and it's sort of like a nod to the quiet life and just enjoying that. Which is obviously a contrast to that rock and roll, which
I think they were running from for a long time, weren't they? Yeah. You can tell it. They just want. They I feel like for a long time they were a band that welcomed drama and chaos, and I think being on the road just served them so well. They're a group of people who have spent their life on the road, aren't they? Yeah. And that did kind of resonate with me a little bit, where you think, wow, they seem settled. This is a settled body of work, and then that was like the bookend to it. I absolutely loved it.
Brilliant album.
Do you have a mark out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. As I say, no bad songs on the album. Some really great moments, but it's sort of like it start without being groundbreaking or critically acclaimed. So for that reason, I can't give it a 5. But for me personally, I really enjoyed the album. It's the first Kings of Leon album I've enjoyed like that in a long time, and I'm really excited to see it live. To be honest, I'll definitely try and get tickets when they eventually tour again.
Yeah, definitely.
But as you say as well, the production on it, I think it's really good. It's just nice to sort of have on and in the background, and it's one of them, you can either get lost in it or you can just have it on in the background and still really enjoy it as well.
Yeah, it works on levels, doesn't it?
Yeah. What about you? What's your mark out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go big on this one just because it did resonate with me, like, personally. And I just really, really enjoyed it. I'd go 4.8.
Yeah, nice.
And I don't know why it's not a 5.
Yeah.
There was just something. Maybe it wasn't as brave.
Yeah.
Maybe if there was like one more track on there that was like a little bit more boundary pushing, but I love it. That's like a bit of a double negative as well, because I love how much of a cohesive body of work it is. So yeah, it just there was just like 0.2 that was like, maybe that could have gone there or blah blah blah, but as I say, 4.8 is my highest mark yet anyway, isn't it? So I really enjoyed this record, and it's one that I hope Kings of Leon fans, and by all accounts a lot of them have, but I would really hope that all Kings of Leon fans and maybe even new fans, so like people who didn't think they were Kings of Leon fans like yourself, that might really enjoy this record. So I would recommend go and listen to it and go and have an hour to yourself and just, switch it off from the world and listen to this.
Yeah. It's a proper album, isn't it? It's like you get albums which are not a full body of work. Essentially, it's a collection of songs. Maybe like you've got 4 singles on there, and then like sort of filler tracks. But this feels like a proper thought about project. Yeah, definitely. And, it's funny how like you'd say that, because all of the visuals are kind of like a vintage style. And that's what albums used to be like, when it was like a body of work, that it was a project, and it was you listened to it all the way through, because there was no other way of listening to it. So it's probably a good one to get on vinyl, really, isn't it? And you have a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning and listen to this.
Absolutely, I'll be doing that. And but on the other end of it, it's actually really interesting that they've actually like broke through the mold and been really brave with how they've released it with this NFT thing. So there's like this juxtaposition there, in that it's all like quite vintage looking and sounding and feeling, but actually they've pushed the whole genre of music itself on by doing the NFT things. It's quite an interesting quandary to be in, isn't it?
And it's quite ironic, considering sort of the band that they used to be. That sort of progressive approach to the music industry. Yeah. And now they're sort of trying to push the music industry in a different direction and have a stake in the future of it. Yeah, really good. And fair play to them. Like, do whatever you want. I felt a bit weird about it when I first heard about it. It didn't feel right. Yeah. But now that I've got my head round what NFTs are and how they're used already, they're already used for art, aren't they? So that was where like I was a bit, what is it? And I've never heard of this and stuff, but they're actually used for art anyway already, and it's just a different kind of art now that people want to use them for, and go and get paid, lads. Yeah, there's some crazy figures being knocked about on this NFT at the moment, isn't there? Yeah. I think there's an art project sold for like 96 million or something recently. There's a lot of money to be made with it.
But like, going forward, people might be able to like, I think people are talking about, you could sell the logo for the band. Yeah. So I mean, little things like that. Imagine just buying it by like your mate's band, buy it for a tenner, and then they get massive. Yeah, you can then sell that for however much. It's just it's a brilliant way, I think. But then they can work in that they get 10% of each sale and all this kind of stuff. So fair play, like crack on, because the music industry needs to be pushed. I think it's a place. It's a place where people need to start taking back a little bit of control. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I think we've been, as fans of music, we've been duped for like what 70, 80, 90 years now. Yeah. And I feel like the curtain's being slowly lifted, and this NFT and Kings of Leon releasing under NFTs and doing all that kind of stuff. This is the start of something huge. I was quite vocal, wasn't I, when it first came out, and I said it seems a bit like mini discs. I don't think it's going to stick around, but I will go on record again and say I was wrong. I do think this is going to stick around. I think it's going to be here forever, and I think it's going to be a really great way of artists making money and being sustainable.
Yeah, as you say, we have been spoiled as fans, and maybe it's an idea for an episode to discuss sort of how the music industry can change and stuff like that. But we could talk about it for ages. But yeah, it's even a band on Kings of Leon level are losing out. Like, everyone's losing out because of Spotify and stuff like that. It doesn't matter if you're one of the most streamed bands on there. Yeah. If all them streams were sales like they used to be, they'd be making a lot more money than they do now. So yeah, it's about taking back control, as you're saying.
I did see some mad stat that was like 4 people get like 80% of Spotify's outgoings.
Yeah.
So like Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, and I think maybe like Stormzy was one of them or something. Like, like it was some mad stat where like most people will never get anything from streams. It's like 4 people in the world that are getting like everything. Then there's the boss of Spotify who's like getting everything. So there needs to be a way of people getting. There's never been more money in the music industry. There isn't, like, if me and you have both got Spotify and we still buy vinyls and we still buy, well, when we can, we still buy tickets to gigs and stuff like that. There's never been more music in the music industry. So why shouldn't it be going to the artists that are creating the art?
No, 100%. And
I think on that bombshell, we'll probably wrap it up. So thanks so much for watching today in our brand new podcast studio.
It's great to be doing it in person again, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I love it. I'm buzzing. I just want to get through more now. But yeah, if you do have any suggestions for another record that we should review, leave it in the comments, and we'll have a conversation about it. If there's a favorite song that you've got on this record, leave it in the comments and we'll have a conversation. We want to build like a nice little community around these videos, don't we?
Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube as well if you're watching, or even if you're not, go on our YouTube and subscribe, because we're hoping to move over our Instagram lives to YouTube live. Now we've got the studio set up and stuff. It'll be a bit more of a nicer production, and so we've got some exciting things planned, so stay tuned.
Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button. Weirdly, it does help us, doesn't it? It's a really annoying thing to say, and I know everyone says it, but it does help us.
So thanks for listening again, and we'll see you next time.
Nice one. Thank you.